Did you know that parents rank financial literacy as the #1 most difficult life skill to teach? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app for families. With Greenlight, you can send money to kids quickly, set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on your kids' spending with real-time notifications. Kids learn to earn, save, and spend wisely, and parents can rest easy knowing their kids are learning about money with guardrails in place. Try Greenlight risk-free today at greenlight.com/Wondery.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 443 of the True Crime All the Time Unsolved podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing great.
Yeah?
I've said it on Patreon, I said it on TCAB, but I'm having an excellent week, man.
You always got to outdo me. I'm like, pretty good. You're like, I'm excellent.
I don't say that every week. I'm pretty honest. I'm okay. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm middling. But this week has been excellent.
You are. You're very happy.
But for no reason in particular.
Yeah.
I'm just having a good week.
Maybe it's because you spent some time with your family last week.
Maybe. I did have a very good Thanksgiving. And I felt bad. We didn't really wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. We kind of forgot about it.
Yeah, we did.
So I hope everybody had a good one for those of you who celebrated.
Absolutely. And we're thankful for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go ahead and give our Patreon shout outs. We had Janny.
What's going on, Janny?
Brandon Parker.
Hey, Parker.
Bethany Nickerson.
Some Nickerson.
Sammy.
What's up, Sammy?
Crystal Christianberry.
Well, Christian Berry.
And Valerie Butcher jumped out at our highest level.
What's up, Butcher?
Alicia Driver.
Hey, Driver.
Sydney Clemens.
Hey, Clemens.
Kim Klein.
There's Kim.
And last but not least, Nancy Clark.
Nancy, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for all the new Patreon support. And then if we go back into the vault, this week we selected Eric.
You got to say like Eric.
Like a Viking?
Yes.
Yeah, because it is spelled with a K.
Yeah, exactly.
So we talked about it on TCAT Gibbs, but CrimeCon is coming up quickly in May. If you're going, save 10% on your standard badge. Go to crimecon.com and use our promo code TCAT, TCATT.
Yeah, come out there and see us.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun time in Vegas.
Or maybe do a little bit of gambling. Maybe.
You never know. Because what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
I do think they're going to sign Rex West to a few shows out there.
Oh, I'm surprised you don't have your own residency yet. Like Brittany or Celine.
Let's just see how this trip goes. Maybe that could be the next thing.
So we have actually a really good lineup of shows for everyone this week. On TCAT, we're doing something that I'm not sure we've ever done before. We're covering the case of Brittany Drexel, which we covered on Unsolved way back in 2019.
Yeah.
Episode 139, but that case has been solved. So we're doing a two-parter on it on TCAT. It's a very interesting case. It was as an Unsolved, even more interesting now that, it's been solved and we can give out that information.
All fresh research, fresh details. Give it a listen.
Yeah, make sure you check that out. All right, buddy, are you ready to get into this episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved?
I'm excited.
This is a fascinating case.
Truly is.
In October 2000, two women named Mary Morris were murdered days apart in Harris County, Texas. Authorities have said they haven't found a link between the cases, both of which remain unsolved, but the families say the coincidences are too suspicious to ignore.
I would agree.
Yeah, it's hard not to, once you look at everything, right? Once we go through everything in this case, to think or to agree with that, because the coincidences are there. I mean, there's just no way around it. On October 12th, 2000, on a rural road north of Baytown, a passerby found a burned body inside a torched car. Although the body was burned beyond recognition, the car belonged to 48-year-old Mary Lou Morris, who lived about 3 miles away. Mary's husband, Jay, hadn't been able to reach her since she went to work early that morning. Mary left home before 6 a.m. Her husband walked her to her car and watched as she drove away towards her usual gas station. Jay presumed Mary was going to stop for gas and then go to work. And I see why that would be his presumption, right? She's headed towards the gas station. All right, she's going to stop for gas and then she's going to continue on to work. A lot of us are in that position every day.
Absolutely.
You know, if you think about a couple, one sometimes leaves before the other. The other might still be in bed. They might be up and see the other one off. You assume every morning that your significant other is going to get to their destination. Now, some people might have a ritual where they text or call when they get there, but I don't think everybody does that. So there's a lot of assumptions made.
Which is normal, like you said.
Yeah, I think it is. It was also normal for Jay to call Mary several times a day while she was at work, but on October 12th, he only got her voicemail. Mary's supervisor called the house after 2 p.m., asking for her. However, the supervisor didn't identify herself, so Jay said Mary was at work.
Well, that's what he believed.
Yeah, that's what he believed, but to me, it's kind of weird that the supervisor, after hearing that, didn't say, hey, this is who I am, and the reason I'm calling is because Mary's not at work.
Right.
Jay eventually called the bank to check on his wife and was told Mary never showed up for work. He knew something was wrong because it wasn't like Mary to miss work. Jay reported his wife missing and called Mary's daughter, Marilyn Blaylock. And I think any of us in that position, that's when the worry would start. Hey, my significant other didn't show up for work. It's not like them. I'm in worry mode.
Yeah, I haven't heard from her. She's not taking my calls.
Jay and Marilyn realized Mary had forgotten her cell phone, worried that she had gotten into an accident or was stranded with car trouble. They drove around trying to retrace her commute. Hours passed with no sign of Mary. Marilyn called hospitals to see if someone with her mother's description had checked in. She then received a call from her father, Mary's ex-husband, Jim Henderson, who was also participating in the search. Jim told Marilyn he'd heard authorities found a burned car near Crosby, Lynchburg, and I-10, not far from her mother's home.
I think your anxiety, already high, would go through the roof at that point.
Yeah, I was going to say, it seems to me like it would be building right throughout the day. You're calling hospitals. Nobody's heard from her. Nobody's seen her. And now you get this piece of information. And I think you're right. You're probably, your anxiety is probably at its zenith. Shortly after Jay Morris reported Mary missing, around 5 p.m., police received a call about an abandoned burned car discovered by someone off-roading in a remote area. This turned out to be Mary's car. Marilyn recalled that her stepfather, Jay, directed her to 2600 West Cedar Bayou Lynchburg Road, not Crosby, Lynchburg, the area her father, Jim, told her over the phone. When Marilyn arrived, she couldn't see the charred car, but a sheriff's deputy on the scene confirmed there was a burned car at the location. Marilyn and Jay were told to go home. About 15 minutes later, officers knocked on their door and told them it was Mary's body in the burned car. So, we just talked about it, Gibbs, right? Anxiety building throughout the day. And now you have this kind of crescendo where everything must come crashing down around you because you've been given the worst news possible.
Yeah, terrible.
The condition of Mary's body made it impossible to determine how exactly she died. She was burned so severely, she was formally identified by tooth fragments.
What a nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, it's never going to be good to find out that a family member is deceased, but to find out that they were burned up, That's got to be tough to handle.
Sure, because you know that they went through hell.
Well, they were either burned while they were alive, which would be tough to take, or they were dead before they were burned. And then you got to figure out, well, were they killed? What happened? Either way, it's not going to be good, but some scenarios I think would be harder to take than others. It was a difficult case for investigators, but it was clear Mary's death was foul play. She was found 3 miles from home in the opposite direction of her work. The car was in an isolated drainage area, secluded by a gate and thick trees. It could only be accessed by way of a busy thoroughfare. The fire was set with massive amounts of accelerant, which singed nearby trees and melted everything, from the car wheels to Mary's jewelry, all of which, except her wedding ring, was left at the scene. And I think that just tells you how hot this blaze was. And you're going to get that when you use a lot of accelerants.
Sure you are.
But I think also you have to make something of everything being left at the scene except for her wedding ring.
Yeah, seems strange.
Now, maybe that was the most valuable piece that she had on her, but obviously that would have to be removed prior to the fire, right? Nobody's jumping into the car while it's on fire to remove this wedding ring.
No.
Smoke was reported to the fire department at 10:20 a.m. At the time, no one knew it was the fire in Mary's car. Detectives couldn't account for what happened to Mary between her departure and the reports of a fire at 10:20 a.m. A cashier at a gas station at I-10 and Thompson recalled someone matching Mary's description, but the store surveillance video was destroyed before police could view it.
Strange.
Is it, though? Because it doesn't say when they got this information. And you and I have talked about it before. I did used to manage some gas stations.
Yeah.
And our system, they only kept it for a week. You had 7 tapes. They were 24-hour recording tapes, and they would just be used over and over again. Maybe other ones only had 1 tape. So you had 1 day's worth or 2 tapes or whatever it is. We also don't know, how long it took for them to get this information and go out to the convenience store. But there was seemingly no motive. Mary had a lot of friends, a successful career. She didn't really have any known enemies. She lived a perfectly normal life. And, motive is a big thing in cases, right? Now, could you have a stranger murder where there's really no motive needed? Yeah, you could. But we know most murders are committed by someone who the victim is familiar with. So in that case, there's usually a motive. Why does this person want to kill this other person? And it wasn't like she was doing something risky.
No, not at all.
She wasn't buying drugs or, involved in something inherently dangerous.
I don't think road rage would go that far, but
it could
be one of the reasons.
But that's pretty over the top for road rage. Mary Lou Morris was born on August 16th, 1952. As we mentioned, she was previously married and had 2 children with her first husband, Henderson. There were no known issues between Mary and Jim. At the time of her death, Jim remained a regular part of her life because of their children. I think that's normal for some couples, right? They get divorced, but when you have children, sometimes, you have to be in each other's lives for the sake of the children.
Yeah.
Mary met Jay Morris through a personals ad, and they had been married since April 1995. By all accounts, they had a really happy marriage.
What if it was one of those personal ads like, do you like pina coladas?
Getting lost in the rain?
Yeah.
I don't use personal ads. I know you do. I don't know why you use those song lyrics for yours, but not sure what kind of responses you get, actually. Mary worked as a loan analyst at a bank in West Houston and was well liked by her coworkers. Marilyn said about her mom, as quoted by Click2 Houston, "It's heartbreaking because she was a good mom. She was a good wife. I want to know why. I also really do want to know how she died. I want to know that my mom didn't suffer. She was a good mom, and she taught me to take care of your family, take care of your kids, and work hard. The woman she was made me the person I am."
Sounds amazing.
It does. Sounds to me like her daughter is very appreciative of her mother. Days later, Marilyn was watching the news and heard a reporter say her mother's name, which caught her attention. She noticed, though, that the reporter was giving details that were incorrect. When the family was preparing to bury Mary, Marilyn called the medical examiner's office in hopes of getting her mother's jewelry so she could be buried with it. Marilyn recalled to Click2 Houston, "The one thing that was important to me when my mom was buried is that she'd be buried with her jewelry. The funeral home didn't want to put my mom in the coffin. They wanted her to stay in a body bag. That was gruesome. So I was the only person who saw my mom in her coffin, and when they opened the coffin up, I didn't see her jewelry anywhere." The medical examiner's office told Marilyn that the jewelry would be picked up by the funeral home workers. When they picked up the body, Marilyn said that the body had already been picked up and the jewelry wasn't there. The person on the phone insisted that Mary Morris's body was still at the office. All right, this has to be a very strange conversation.
Yeah, I think you're going, what? And how frustrated would you be?
Like, you're telling me one thing, and I'm sitting here looking at my mom's body.
Yeah.
So I know what's going on. But this is how the family learned that another woman named Mary Morris had also died. 3 days after Mary Lou Morris died, on October 15, 2000, a woman named Mary McGinnis Morris was also killed in her car. Mary McGinnis Morris was found in her vehicle in Northwest Houston. She was 39 years old. Like Mary Lou Morris, she had a successful career and had a lot of friends. Mary was a nurse practitioner. In 1998, Mary and her family left their home in West Virginia because she accepted a position as medical director for Union Carbide. In Houston, she oversaw several of the company's clinics. Although Mary missed her family in West Virginia, she settled into life in Houston, and she loved her job. Her sister, Stephanie Lord, told Unsolved Mysteries, Mary was like an angel. She was very joyful, always happy, making people laugh. Not enough words, really, to describe her. I mean, she was just really loved by everybody. At work, anything a doctor would do, Mary did. She would work 14 hours a day and not think twice, go back in the evenings, weekends, whenever she was needed.
Sounds like we have two amazing Marys here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything that people said about these two women is that they were great to be around. They had no enemies. They had good jobs. They loved their jobs, and people loved them.
Yeah. Which, of course, will add to the mystery.
Yeah, because again, where is the motive, right? What is the motive? Katie Morris said about her mom in an interview with Click2 Houston, she was so many things to so many people. I think she was an incredible mom. She was a fantastic daughter and sister, a great friend, great wife. She was a beloved member of our community, our church community, our theater community. According to Mary's friend and coworker, Lori Jamel, Mary got along with everyone at work, except for one new male nurse. In early 2000, Dwayne Young joined the staff as a temporary employee. He complained to Mary's superiors and questioned her authority. Young denied any involvement in Mary's death, but declined to speak further to the Houston Chronicle when they reached out to him. He said he was prohibited by court order from speaking about the case. The Chronicle is the only source that names Young.
That's interesting.
Well, I mean, when you're kind of grasping at straws, looking for a person who might have had an issue with a person, might have had an issue with Mary, this seems like the only name that really comes up.
Would the issue be big enough for somebody like that to attempt to take out Mary, realize he took out the wrong Mary, and then went after the other Mary?
Well, you're getting ahead of things, but yeah, I mean, that's going to be in the theory section for sure, right? Because these deaths coming 3 days apart, same name, that there's theories all over the place,
for sure,
especially online, and that's going to be one of them. Although Mary and Dwayne disliked each other, the Chronicle did note that he had been to Mary's home for a party, and Mary and her husband attended a party he hosted. So, make of that what you will, but normally when you really don't like someone, you don't invite them to your parties and you don't attend their party.
For sure.
Now, they might not have been best of friends and, they might not have liked the way that each other did things, but I think just attending parties of each other's shows you that they didn't hate each other.
Right. Wasn't that severe.
Couldn't have been. It was said that Mary was stressed and afraid in the final weeks of her life. Lori Jamel said to Unsolved Mysteries, she told me that she was afraid of this person that she worked with. And I said, do you really think he could hurt you? And she said, yes, I do. And I think he could do worse. Okay. You have to analyze that. What's worse than hurting you? I think she's saying that he could possibly kill.
And is the person she referring to Dwayne?
Well, it doesn't come out and say that, but knowing that he's the only one apparently that had a problem with her, I think you can make that conclusion. Soon after that conversation, Mary stopped by the office to pick up some paperwork and was concerned when she found things out of place on her desk. Her pictures were turned in the wrong direction. She became frightened when she saw the words "death to her" on a desktop calendar at the clinic. Mary told superiors about the note, and they advised her to stay home that Friday. Later that day, Dwayne Young returned to the office to make sure his time card was signed. He made a scene and was asked not to return per Lori Jamel. Lori told the Houston Chronicle he was banging on the windows and asking for Mary. He had to be escorted out. So, there's a lot of things going on here, and we just made a big deal about them attending parties and, not knowing when all of it happened. Maybe when the parties occurred, they were on better terms, and maybe the relationship got worse over time. We don't really know because we don't have the particulars of the timing, but that's a possibility.
It is a possibility. It makes sense what you're saying. Most likely something caused more friction at work and took it to another level, maybe.
Well, obviously, Dwayne has an issue with Mary. He's banging on the windows. He's making a scene to the point where he was escorted out and asked not to return.
It's never good to be escorted out of work.
No, it's usually not a good thing. Mary's husband, Mike, talked to her that day. Mike said she made a phone call to me on her way home, and I could tell that she was shaken. She got home and she asked me if I would provide her with a gun to carry with her for her own protection. She asked me to go over the handling and use of the gun. When we were finished, she asked me to place the gun in her car under the driver's seat.
Well, that is very serious.
Well, I think it shows you the level of fear, worry, anxiety that she was experiencing. Mary was killed 3 days later on October 15th. It was a Sunday, so Mary planned to run some errands. She briefly went to the clinic where she gave her friend Lori Jamel a flu shot. Mary seemed fine and said she was just going to work for a couple of hours. Mary's husband and her daughter Katie went to the movies while she was out. After leaving the clinic, Mary went to the post office, grocery store, and drugstore. At the drugstore, she saw someone who she said gave her the creeps, and she called Lori to tell her about it. It was at this point that she decided to go home. Mary told her friend, "I'm just going to run across the bridge and turn off my computer and sign out of the building and go home." 12 minutes after saying goodbye to Lori, Mary made a frantic call to 911. Detective Wayne Kuhlman of the Harris County Sheriff's Office Department told Unsolved Mysteries, "We're not releasing the content of the tape. It covers the attack that happened to Mary, and anybody that's ever heard that tape has just had their blood chilled listening to it. It's a very chilling, disturbing call."
It just makes me sick thinking about it.
Yeah. You can only imagine what's on it. Now, most 911 calls are frantic, right? There's somebody on the line who is in distress, or they most likely wouldn't be calling 911. But every now and then, someone calls 911 during the commission of a heinous crime, and it's actually caught on the tape. And it sounds like this is one of those scenarios.
Now, you wonder when she called her friend, saying that there was this individual creeping her out. If it was Dwayne, I would think she would say.
Yeah, that was my thought.
Yeah.
Because this is her good friend, right? Lori, you would think she would have confided in her who it was if she knew who it was.
Yeah.
But saying there was a guy who gave her the creeps makes me think it wasn't Dwayne, or else she would have named him.
And same on the 911 call, not hearing it, but assuming that
she had some time to talk
or scream it out or something.
Yeah, it makes it seem as though she didn't know who this person was. Mary's husband and daughter were worried when they came home and Mary wasn't there. Her husband called Mary's friend, who recalled that Mary saw someone who creeped her out while she was running errands. Mike Morris reported his wife missing that evening. And you and I, talk about it quite a bit, right? In unsolved cases, what is the point where someone gets worried? And I think with both of these women, their husbands got worried very, very quickly because I think they were pretty predictable, right? With their patterns, which a lot of people are. Now, there are some people who are very unpredictable, who, they may disappear for days, weeks, show back up, not call anybody. Those are the ones that become pretty tough because, do you report them missing when they have a history of doing that? These two women, both named Mary Morris, I don't think you would put them in that category.
No, they seem to be creatures of habit.
And very predictable. Mary's body was found the next morning by a wrecker driver in her company car on West Little York near the Eckerd drugstore in the opposite direction of her workplace. Mary was shot once in the head with the gun registered to her husband, Mike, which she had been carrying. Its placement could indicate suicide, but there was evidence of a struggle. Mary was beaten and may have even been gagged. There was blood on the passenger door, which was left open, and the keys were outside the car. Mary's daughter, Katie, listened to her 911 call. She told Click 2 Houston, "I did have the opportunity to listen to it. And the last memory that I have of my mom is her screaming."
Heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking. Maybe I get it. You want to listen to it, but maybe that's not the best thing to do because, okay, now that's your last memory and you're going to be thinking about that all the time. But I want to go back to this possible indication of suicide. I think when you talk about someone being beaten, possibly gagged, that doesn't sound to me like suicide.
Not at all.
I mean, if somebody's going to end their life, they're probably not going to beat themselves up before they do it.
Especially if you had the background of what was going on in her life. I think it's a tough conclusion to come to.
Yeah, I think it is too. You also have, blood on the passenger door. It's left open. The keys are outside of the car. I mean, what do you make of all of that? I don't exactly know, but it doesn't neatly fit into the theory of suicide, at least to me. Mary McGinnis's sister, Stephanie Lord, called the police the day the body was found and learned about the other Mary Morris, who died a few days earlier. Investigators initially focused on Mary's coworker, and that doesn't surprise me at all. Right? I mean, we talked about it. This is kind of like the one person in Mary's life who really kind of had a problem with her. How could you not start with that person?
Yeah, I think he would have to be person of interest number one.
Detectives claim to have evidence linking him to the crime, so he remains a suspect. When investigators tried to talk to Mike Morris, they considered his behavior suspicious. He refused to meet with police. Without an attorney, Mike also refused to take a polygraph. Now, this is something you and I have touched on many times.
Sure.
And I understand why police don't like it. They may find it suspicious, right? Here's a guy whose wife has been murdered. If he didn't have anything to do with it, and this is the police, I'm talking as the police.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he just come in and talk to us? Why wouldn't he take a polygraph to eliminate himself? I think the flip side of that is, Mike possibly thinking, hey, the husband is always a suspect.
They are.
So I'm not taking any chances. I'm getting an attorney and I'm going to do what they tell me to do. And I got to be honest with you. I don't think that's a bad course of action whatsoever.
No, I preach it all the time.
Now, the one thing it may do is, cause them to drag their feet a little bit on the investigation, spend more time on them than they probably would need to. That's a possibility.
It probably doesn't look great in the eyes of the public.
Well, that too. The public doesn't always think about that, side of it,
Yeah.
which is, concern for yourself in a way that they may try to pin this on you, even if, you didn't do it. In regards to wanting an attorney, Mike told Unsolved Mysteries he was following the advice of a trusted friend. He explained he declined a polygraph because he said, I was on anti-anxiety medications. I was on antidepressants. I wasn't really sure that the polygraph examination that they were talking about could adequately compensate for all of those conditions.
That's a good reason not to take it. If you're unsure on how that would impact the results, don't take it, because if it comes back that he passed the polygraph, yay, no problem. Nobody says another thing about it. If it comes back that the results are negative or inconclusive, well, now there's a problem.
Well, at the very least, there's a spotlight, a bigger spotlight, right, on him if he fails the polygraph. Also, probably the public is going to turn against him more than even saying he didn't want to take it, right? The failure of a polygraph is probably going to turn people against him even more. Mike said he gave the police access to his apartment, his fingerprints and blood samples. He gave them everything with the exception of a polygraph. So he wasn't being completely uncooperative. He just didn't want to take a polygraph.
He was just controlling what he could control.
Detectives also learned that Mike and Mary were having marriage problems, which escalated when they moved to Houston. Mike was out of work, and they argued often. At one point, he believed Mary was having an affair with a family friend. Mike confronted both of them and chose to believe them. When they denied it, Mike claimed he didn't see any betrayal in their eyes. Mike told the Houston Chronicle in 2002, we had problems in the last few years, but we were well on our way to solving them. We were back at the point of being best friends when she died. However, friends and family suggested the marriage was not fully mended, and Mike was distrustful of Mary.
But is that a reason to murder your wife?
Possibly. I mean, it's not going to help police move on from you.
No.
When they learn that, okay, there's friction in the marriage and all of that. Mary's sister, Stephanie Lord, told the Chronicle, Mary put it to me that she had fallen in love with someone else, but she wasn't going to leave Mike. She was trying to make her marriage work. But after they had gone through 3 or 4 marriage counselors, it had gotten to the point where she would have asked him for a divorce. There was also potential motive because Mary had a $700,000 life insurance policy, which Mike was the beneficiary of. And police are going to see that as a red flag or potential motive at the very least.
Yeah, unhappy marriage, and was going to receive $700,000 upon her death.
That's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
Detective Wayne Kuhlman told the Chronicle in 2002 she had a coworker doing everything in his power to wreck her career and a husband with whom she had a bad relationship. She had a big life insurance policy. We have not been able to eliminate these people as suspects. The problem with this one is a lack of cooperation by the people closest to her. We didn't have access to her daughter for 2 months, and her husband has not helped out. Kuhlman added, Mike told us she was carrying the gun up until her death, but a friend and coworker said she was going to quit carrying it. How would someone know she had a gun in her car? If she had been killed by just anyone with a gun, that would be one thing. But she was killed with the family gun.
Well, she also could have pulled it out from underneath the seat, getting ready to protect herself or trying to protect herself.
And somebody took it away from her and used it against her. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a possibility.
Because you can have a gun, but if you're not willing to use it, actually pull the trigger when you need to.
Or if you're indecisive at all.
Yeah.
It doesn't take that long for somebody to close the distance on you and maybe rip it out of your hands. True Crime All the Time Unsolved is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states. Mary drove a car that locked when it was put into gear, suggesting the person who attacked her had access to the car. Kuhlman said she didn't let anybody in. It appeared it was somebody who would have been able to get into the locked car. Well, and who would be able to get into the locked car?
Somebody that has the other key.
Which, is most likely a family member. He's kind of pointing everything back towards Mike, right? Mary wasn't robbed. The only item missing was a ring she was known to wear. But 3 months later, a friend of the family saw that Katie was wearing it. The Morrises told a friend they had found the ring. Another potential piece of evidence against Mike was a call he made to Mary's cell phone 2 hours after she called 911. This call lasted 4 minutes. According to Detective Kuhlman, this was by all indications of the cellular telephone company, a completed call. What you have to wonder is, what did that phone call either set in motion or end? And this was very strange to me because by all indications, right, of what was on this 911 call, Mary was being attacked while she called, during the call.
Right.
So you would have to believe that Mike calling her 2 hours later, she would have already been dead.
Was that Mike just calling, looking for her because he had not heard from her?
Well, Mike had no explanation for the call, telling Unsolved Mysteries. Normally, the cellular service would have kicked in and said that the party you were calling was unavailable. I didn't get that. I don't know why I didn't get that, but as long as the phone was ringing and I thought that there was a possibility that she would answer it, I let it ring. Detective Kuhlman questioned why the call showed up on Mary's phone bill if no one answered. He said, I don't accept that Mike made this phone call and that the phone rang for 4 minutes. It's not possible. The question is, who answered the phone on the other end? That's what the big question is. And what did they talk about for the 4 minutes? So now, Gibbs, I think he's getting into the area of, without coming out and saying it, almost as if Mike had hired somebody to kill Mary, and then he was talking to this person on the phone after it was done?
Well, if you think about it that way, it helps explain the creepy guy stalking her hours before.
That most likely was not Dwayne, because she would have said it was Dwayne.
Right. And it also helps explain maybe why the 911 recording heard her screaming. She never called out anybody's name, as far as we know.
Right, because we didn't hear it.
Right.
She didn't say it was Mike, obviously, because police would have jumped on that. But it is strange. If this really was a completed 4-minute call, then it's hard to figure out. Mike Morris has continually denied any involvement in his wife's death. Meanwhile, police were still looking into the murder of Mary Lou Morris. Mary's purse was missing, but no charges were ever put on her credit cards, and her phone card was not used until 5 months after she died. Then in April, Jay Morris received a $2,000 bill for his wife's phone card, which was traced to a 16-year-old girl in Galveston. She told police that in March, she found a purse with the card and other belongings sitting in the parking lot of a Galveston convenience store. A neighbor kept the purse. Police found the purse in question, but Mary's family said it wasn't hers. The neighbor had thrown out the other contents of the purse. All right, so, we got a little more mystery here in the Mary Lou Morris murder. It seems as though somebody took her purse and then maybe discarded it in Galveston.
Yeah.
It's possible that this 16-year-old girl came along, saw this card, and said, you know what? I'll use that. $2,000 phone charges, though, that's quite a bit.
A lot of phone calls.
But I don't think that means necessarily that obviously she had anything to do with it or anything like that. Around the same time, Jay began receiving phone calls to his unlisted number from people asking for Mary.
Well, that's strange, being unlisted, unless somehow somebody leaked it out.
By the third call, he followed detectives' advice and gave the caller a detective's number as a way to reach Mary. The caller replied, "Oh, yeah, right." And that was the last call Jay ever received. Detectives traced the calls to an apartment in Baytown, but had no further leads. So, there's so many strange things in both of these cases.
A lot of head scratching going on.
How does the purse get to Galveston? Who is this person supposedly calling and asking for Mary on an unlisted line? The Houston Chronicle reported on the case in 2002. After a year and a half later passed with no answers, the article discussed the theory that Mary Lou was mistakenly killed by someone who wanted Mary McGinnis dead. And this is exactly where your mind was headed, right? And I said we'd talk about it.
Right.
This is a very common theory floated in this case. It reminds me, obviously not the exact same, but the first Terminator movie, when the Terminator is trying to find Sarah Connor.
Yeah.
He is going down the names in the phone book, and he is killing people named Sarah Connor. Now, he's in LA, so there's a lot of people named Sarah Connor, but he's killing people who aren't the person that he is really meaning to kill. I guess, what that tells me is if it were true, then the killer doesn't actually know the person he's killing, which means what? Maybe he's been hired to do it.
He was given a name,
but not enough information to know exactly which Mary Morris it is. Because obviously, if there's a connection between the two people, you would think the killer would know this is the wrong Mary Morris.
Well, that's true. Unless he knows who the right Mary Morris is, but to really throw a wrench into the police investigations, you take out a different Mary Morris along with the Mary Morris you want to take out, because now it just causes all this confusion. It's a far-fetched theory, but it's still a theory.
Yeah. And, how can you really dismiss anything at this point? Now, what I would say is, would it make sense to reverse the order? Because if Mary McGinnis Morris is the person you want killed, would you kill that person first and then kill the other Mary Morris to make it look like she was the one ultimately to be killed and the person messed up on the first one?
Yeah.
Possibly. Again, we're just theorizing, but it's a theory that a lot of people have, kind of latched onto over the years. Authorities were skeptical of any link between the cases. Marilyn Blaylock told the Chronicle, "It's just so astounding that two people by the same name, who to me look very similar, were murdered so close together. They were both brutally murdered, and no one has been charged in either case. It's hard to say it was just coincidence." And, we talked about that up front. I think it is hard to say. Could it be that two people named Mary Morris just happened to be killed 3 days apart? Yeah, technically it could be, and could be unrelated, but man, it seems strange.
It does.
One of the most common theories, and we just talked about it a little bit in this case, is that a hitman was hired to kill Mary McGinnis Morris and killed Mary Lou Morris by mistake. This theory is allegedly supported by a call made to the Houston Chronicle. Someone called between the first and second murders and said they got the wrong Mary Morris. It's also potentially supported by the fact that Mary Lou Morris's wedding ring was missing from the crime scene. According to Unsolved Mysteries, this is an item a hitman would use to prove they completed the job.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, again, this theory does make some sense, but police haven't found any evidence that Mary Lou Morris was killed by a hitman in a case of mistaken identity. They believe, the police do, that the murders are a bizarre coincidence.
Well, I do find it weird that someone would call the Houston Chronicle in between the murders and say, "Hey, I got the wrong Mary." Wouldn't you think that the police would be informed and would do a little search for any other Mary Morris and say, "Hey, Mary Morris, we need to keep an eye on you for a little bit"?
Yeah, we don't know how true that really is. I don't know why the Houston Chronicle would lie about it, but Jay Morris told Unsolved Mysteries the astronomical odds that two Mary Morrises were killed 3 days apart, very similar in looks to me. That's what it is. Astronomical odds that they're not connected. In December 2004, Harris County Sheriff Sergeant James Parker said at a news conference, "To date, we have no link or connection between the two cases. As coincidental as it seems, we don't think there was a link." Parker announced an additional $5,000 reward fund in his hope that it would generate new leads. And I just wonder, Gibbs, do police really think it's a coincidence, or do they just not have any evidence proving that it's not, so they have to say it is at this point?
Well, for now, I think they have to say it is because they just don't have the evidence to say otherwise.
Or to prove otherwise, right?
Yeah.
And that could definitely be the case. Both Mary McGinnis's husband and coworker were still suspects at this time. In 2025, Katie Morris told Click 2 Houston that she doesn't think her father was involved, saying, "I don't believe my dad had anything to do with it. I don't think their relationship was perfect, but I think they were both two people that were willing to work to make that relationship better. I just want peace for my dad. I cannot imagine what he went through, losing his best friend, losing his partner, having to raise a 15-year-old daughter on his own, halfway across the country from his family. My hope is that both of these cases can be solved, that Marilyn and I can both get some peace, not just for ourselves as the daughters of these women, but for the rest of our families." Katie was asked, "Do you believe Marilyn's mother, also Mary Morris, was killed by someone who thought they were killing your mother?" She responded, "It definitely is a little suspicious to me that this happened. These two women were killed so close together with the same name." So she's suspicious as well, but not of her dad. And, let's face it, I think for most kids, it would be hard to come to the conclusion without cold hard facts that your dad killed your mom.
Right.
That's going to be a tough pill to swallow. Now, if you prove it, and there's no doubt about it, then, a child's going to have to live with that. But to just believe that without any proof or solid evidence, I don't think most kids would.
Now, here's another far out theory that I was thinking. Their initials are MM. You remember it was in 2 states, California and New York, I think. The alphabet
killer. Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe it's a copycat of something like that.
Yeah, it could be. It just, with their names being exactly the same, it seems almost like too much of a coincidence.
Yeah.
Like way more than just the double initials. If it was Mary Morris and Molly McGrath, okay, then that were killed 3 days apart. I get that. Maybe it's something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, these 2 women just having the exact same name, except for their middle names.
And looking similar.
Yeah, I don't know. I do understand people who subscribe to the theory that Mary Lou Morris was killed by accident. Not by accident, but you know what I mean, incorrectly.
Yeah.
She wasn't
the intended target.
The intended target, Mary McGinnis Morris was, and the person found her and killed her 3 days later. But, for that to be true, you almost have to believe that her husband had something to do with it, if that were the case.
Yeah, otherwise, why would the person do that? Where's the motive for an individual to do that?
Other than being hired by the husband, because he did have a motive.
Sure did. $700,000 motive.
Right. And, relationship was rocky. You have all that. And obviously a boatload of money. But, yeah, I just don't know. And this is one of those that people have, kind of been hanging on to, debating for years now. And I don't see any end to it unless police get to the bottom of it.
This is tragic for the family. I feel really bad for the daughter that had to listen to the 911 tape. As you mentioned, that's just going to stick with her forever. You're not going to shake that. It's not going to be shaken.
No, you're never getting that out of your mind. But as we wrap this one up, Gibbs, 25 years later, the murders of Mary Lou Morris and Mary McGinnis Morris remain unsolved, although the women had the same name and died under similar circumstances, just a few days apart. There are no confirmed links between the cases. If you have information about their deaths, call the Harris County Sheriff's Office. And I get it, there are no confirmed links, but it's hard not to think that these have something to do with each other. They're not just random murders. As I think Jay said, the odds are pretty astronomical.
Yeah, I think the probability is very low. And I'm Mensa.
And you are Mensa. But that's it for our episode on the Mary Morris murders. We got a voicemail. You want to check that out?
Let's hear it.
Hi, Mike and Gibby. This is Alexis. I am a recent move to Cincinnati. And I didn't know, I know that you folks are located in somewhat near here. Do you do any local meetups for folks that are fans of your show or anything like live events or anything like that? I know that there's Crime Con, and eventually I'll get there, but I didn't know if you had anything local. I have been a listener since day one. I love the podcast, and you guys do a great job, and keep your own time ticking. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks for the voicemail. Appreciate you listening. We have done some over the years. It's not a regular thing that we do.
Right.
We've not done any live events. We've talked about it, but we just haven't ventured into that yet.
We thought about doing Riverfront Stadium,
there is no more Riverfront Stadium.
That's why we haven't followed through on it. So
oh, you crack me up.
We're waiting for a bigger venue.
They've had a new stadium for many years
have
now.
They now?
Yes,
yeah.
they have. Yeah. But thanks for the voicemail very much.
We appreciate it.
Yep. All right, buddy. That is it for another episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.
TV. Stream Pluto TV for free.
Stream blockbuster hits like 21 Jump Street, Ted, The Expendables, and so much more on Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never.